get by. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I feel like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Wise.
Dr. Jeremy Wise here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Rob Cromer of Aisle 3. You can check him out at aisle3.com. Rob, before I formally introduce you, I always like to point out other episodes of the podcast people should check out. This is part of the Top Agency series, also really e-commerce series too. Some cool ones I've had on. I had Jason Swank, who built his agency up to 8 figures and sold it, then started a group for agency owners, the group he wished he had, when he first started. So that was an interesting story. I had Kevin Hurrigan on. He started his agency in 1995. This was really talking about the evolution of the internet business and also the agency world through a couple of decades. From the e-commerce, some interesting ones have been fan favorites. Wild Tonic Kombucha. I like kombucha, Rob. So I like the brands that I eat and consume. The founder of that came on and talked about her journey. Also, the co-founder of RX Bars talked about his journey. Awesome. This is before he sold RX Bars to Kellogg, and obviously now he's started David Bar. I've had a few interesting bar companies. Quest Nutrition founder Tom Bilyeu was on. Also, IQ Bar founder Will Nitze was on as well. So there's lots on there. Go on InspiredInsider.com if you want to check them out. The Kettle Chips one is a really interesting one. He built two like 9-figure companies. It was kind of crazy.
Not easy to do.
Super humble guy also. But this episode is brought to you by Rise 25. At Rise 25, we help businesses connect to their dream relationships and partnerships. We do that in a few ways. One, we're an easy button for a company to launch and run a podcast. We do the strategy, the accountability, and the full execution and production. Number 2, we're an easy button for companies gifting. We make gifting and staying top of mind to your clients, partners, prospects, even your staff, simple, easy, and affordable. You just give us a list of the people and we'll send gifts to them. We like not just one-off gifts, Rob. We like kind of send a campaign of gifts. So it could be like 3 gifts a year for like 4 years. And so we kind of call ourselves the magic elves that run in the background to make it stress-free for a company to build amazing relationships. And that's what I always look at. The number one thing in my life is relationships. So I always look at ways to give to my relationships. And personally, I found no better way over the past 15 years than to profile the people and the companies I admire and share with the world that they're working on the podcast, and then send them sweet treats in the mail. So you can go to rise25.com or email support@rise25.com. I am super excited to introduce Rob Cromer. He's the CEO and co-founder of Aisle 3. Aisle 3 is an Amazon-first agency built to help founder-led brands win on marketplaces. They start with Amazon, but you name it, Walmart, Target, etc. Aisle 3 was recognized by Adweek as one of the fastest-growing agencies and ranked on the Inc. 5000 list. Several companies, you could check out our work page, include Nama. I'm big into health, so Nama, stuck out to me, Rob, as the cold press growth machine, Friction, Caraway nonstick brand, and many more. So, Rob, thanks for joining me.
It's great to be here. I appreciate it, Jeremy. I'm excited to talk gifting at some point because I'm a big fan of taking things offline and bringing things back to the tangible world. So let's get into that later.
Yeah, you have to be, because you're in e-commerce, right? I mean, you're sending physical gifts, but oftentimes when we're communicating with our relationships, we are not sending tangible things. We're not sending those things.
It used to be a norm, right? You would get something from the people that you were working with, a thank you note or, a holiday gift. And I don't think you see it much anymore. So when you do it and you do it well, it definitely stands out from the crowd. And our team does a lot of work thinking through the year, getting to know clients beyond just the day-to-day work so that we can be a little bit more thoughtful around gifting as well.
Love it. I'm going to pull up your site here and just start off and tell people about Aisle 3 and what you do.
Well, the big third aisle is kind of a big one for us. So we work in marketplaces. We're an Amazon first marketplace agency that helps challenger brands turn into household names. We what is the third aisle? What we should probably answer that one first. The first aisle we consider retail. It's where brands have been forever. It's on shelf. It's in store. The second, which we kind of saw the rise in the last 10 years of e-com and D2C, right? Brands selling on their own websites. And the third, which is now the fastest growing aisle in marketplaces, right? Things like Amazon. So we work with what we call mission-driven brands. So brands that speak to their customers in a different way, that have something more to them than just product. And we help them tell those stories on the marketplaces. We work with them in a full service suite of capacities, from creative to performance marketing to fulfillment and ops, to help them sell their products. And if we've done our job right, they go head to head with the tentpole legacy CPG players out there. And hopefully we can help them create revenue streams that help accelerate their business and turn them into household names and real competitors out there.
I know one of the ways you do that is through the SOAR process. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. SOAR came from a past experience. So one of the other founders, Rob Prentice, who's our CMO, and I have known each other for 25 years. We've been best friends since high school. We met on the water polo team. He was a little older, took me under his wing, and we have been best friends ever since. One of the things we've been able and lucky enough to do together was start multiple businesses. Our last business was a software company. And in that, we had a large software development team.
Was that Adcade or was that?
That was Adcade. Yeah, that's okay. Right. And that was, we can dive into all that, but that was a venture.
I didn't realize that
company.
Was a software company.
Yeah, so it was a software company with an agency attached. We were VC funded. It was one of those hustle mentality kind of companies, try to become the next unicorn. And coming out of that, I actually am now anti all of it. Have a very different anti the pushing young founders to the breaking point and giving them unrealistic goals and the chasing of valuations rather than profitability, and always having to think about where your next round of funding comes from rather than who your customer is. And I think while it's sexy and everybody wants to, be the next big thing, I think success isn't necessarily measured by how much you raised in your last round. It's really about what is the company you're building? What is the positive impact that company has on the people around you and the people that work for it? And is that company hitting the goals that you've set for it rather than the goals that somebody else is setting for you? But we can.
It was software. Talk about that for a second, because I'm sure you took a lot of learnings from Adcade into IL3. And it's interesting because it was a software plus agency. How did that work? And we'll get to
sure.
This one. This IL3 is just, there's not like a software component to it, right?
So it's the opposite. No software in IL3. We are human capital, human touch, almost anti-software, especially in a space like Amazon. And we can dive deeper into that later about why. But
because I would think, like, when I talk to a lot of agency owners, that would be like their dream, to have like this. Again, grass is always greener. We just want software multiples and have a software that's sticky along with the agency. So it's interesting you had that life and then you moved just to agency. So talk about the software plus agency world and how that worked.
Yeah, so Adcade had a software that enabled developers to build ads in a technology called HTML5 that would deploy an ad across all different devices on the web. So your phone, your computer, whatever you might be on your tablet, whereas they used to be built in Flash. And our team had a team of people that would build those ads, and that was the agency, on behalf of publishers like the New York Times, Condé Nast, Hearst. And we were an agency that worked with advertisers and publishers together. And we also had a self-service platform that people could use to build their own ads. One of the things going back to SOAR that we took away from that business was the way software developers worked. They had a methodology called agile software development. And really what it comes down to is inputs, outputs, objectives, activities, and postmortems. And that thought process would enable them to consistently iterate and continue to build things in a more robust way than I'd ever seen before. I'm not a software developer. So as CEO of that company, it was interesting to I was lucky enough that one of my good friends, Buzz Wiggins, who now has a company called Airflow, was the CTO of that company. And he and the software team taught me a lot around agile. And we took that, and Rob Prentice, who's our CMO of this company, and he was the COO of Adcade. Rob and I sat down and said, okay, in building IL3, how can we create something that is different than every other agency? I think when you talk to clients around, why are you leaving your agency, or what are you disappointed with your current partner, or what is the experiences that you don't like in agency? A lot of times the feedback is there's a flurry of upfront activity, and then the agency tends to set it and forget it, put it into kind of cruise control and coast off of the margin or the profitability that they're getting and assume that the client will eventually churn. And it's a retainer-based business that we find to be the antithesis of what we like. So we took agile software development and brought it to marketing. And that's what SOAR is. It stands for strategize, optimize, advertise, and report and repeat on it. And what that means is we as a team are always thinking about those inputs, outputs, objectives, and activities, and then doing postmortems on that. And it allows the work that we do to be always on. And I think in a marketplace, always on is an unusual kind of default for agencies. And it works with a certain subset of clients, and that specifically being challenger brands. They're not the big guys out there. We don't work with somebody fresh out of college who is a marketer that's being told the strategy from 9 levels of telephone. We're working directly with the founders, the CEOs, like this is their lifeblood, and they are all in. And it's important that our team is all in with them. And we find that SOAR is an operating system that sits above everything that we do, creates a more compatible system with the founders that we work with. And it permeates into our team in kind of the core values that our team employs. Like we are intentional in every way. And intentionality, I think, comes from the ability to look at what you're doing, to be critical of what you're doing, to actually be thoughtful. Relationships over transactions is a big one for us, in that we're not looking for just the next logo. We don't want to churn out brands after bringing them on. We want to work with them for years. And this helps us do that. And then kind of taking all the things that we found as founders and working with founders, we want our team to have that founders mindset, to be able to actually be actionable on the things that they're doing and accountable. And SOAR helps them do that as well.
Yeah, I can understand if you're watching the video piece, if you're listening, I've been showing a little bit about the SOAR, strategize, and then the optimize portion, advertise, and then the report. How have you found, as far as your frequency of meeting with the clients, right? How often are you going through, because I'm sure this is a rinse and repeat, but I'm not sure, like, what's the cycle of this look like? And maybe it's different for each brand, where you have to kind of strategize and then do
It's
the
different
following.
for each brand. I think the constant from, call it strategy at 10,000 feet and picking it apart, is an H1, H2. So the first 6 months and the last 6 months of each year. Right, 2 separate periods, where typically the first part of the year, especially in marketplaces like Amazon, is a lot around tinkering and working through kind of the optimizations of the listings and the launching of new products because when you look at kind of the way the year is set up from marketplaces, you've got let's just stick with Amazon. In Q1, you have Prime Spring or whatever they call it this at this point, and there's one high velocity event. So HVEs are what Amazon calls their high velocity events. And when you get into H2 or the second half of the year, you've got Prime Day, which is, advertised all over and everybody knows what Prime Day is at this point. Then you run into the next holiday, which is Prime Fall. Then you run into the next one, which is Black Friday, followed by Cyber Monday and the holidays. So we take a lot of learnings from the first half of the year and put those into action and strategy around what the holidays and the promotions around the high velocity events are going to be. And in terms of kind of the day-to-day work, we meet with clients on a consistent schedule of bi-weekly calls. So we talk to brands for about an hour every 2 weeks about the upcomings, the call outs, the numbers, all the things that matter. And from that call, we will schedule one-offs, whether that be with their fulfillment team or their creative team, around different initiatives that we're putting forward or we're working on at any given time. So we meet with our clients a lot.
Yeah, we'll go through some examples. I'm looking here, Caraway. I mean, I'm not sure, is it Nama? The cold press
Nama's
growth
got an
machine.
awesome,
It's really cool.
awesome juice. It's the coolest juicer you've ever seen. Instead of having to cut things into little pieces and having that loud buzzing sound in your kitchen, Nama allows you basically to throw a whole piece of fruit in there, and then it grinds it up and turns it into this beautiful juice. They've also got the ability, cool milkers. So you can just literally put nuts into a machine and it turns
really?
it into nut milk. It's very cool. And Dan is the CEO of that company, and
I like the spigot version. I wish I would have known about this before I got my other juicer, because this one looks cooler and also
I think I could
cleaner.
probably talk to Dan and see if we can get you a friends and family discount there, because it's once you start using a Nama juicer, it's hard to go back to anything else.
I love the spigot piece as well on there.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So we'll get into some examples, but I'm curious, before we hit record, we were talking about, at this point in time, Black Friday, Cyber Monday's coming up, but it's always coming up and people are always prepping for it. They're probably prepping for it 6 months in advance or more. So what are some of the mistakes you see with people getting ready for, Q4 in e-commerce, like you were saying, the Super Bowl? What are some of the mistakes you see these brands making?
I think the biggest mistake we see brands make is they think that they can plan for Black Friday, Cyber Monday right before Black Friday, Cyber Monday. And in reality, the planning starts months in advance, just thinking through the fulfillment aspect of it, right? We need to think through production cycles, make sure that we have demand forecasts and kind of an understanding of what we think we're going to sell through. And that requires us already thinking through promotional strategies and what we're going to be able to sell in that period of time. And then we're preparing and sending into Amazon well in advance before the holiday comes up, as Amazon ends up really putting cutoff dates. So if Black Friday, Cyber Monday this year starts, I think it's November 20th, right? It's coming up, right? Actually, it's next week. Black Friday, Cyber Monday starts November 20th. The cutoff can be a month or two in advance for them to guarantee your inventory availability. So we're sending things in well in advance of Black Friday, Cyber Monday holiday, but at the same time, we have to take into account storage fees. So when you send things in advance, if they're just sitting there getting dusty on the shelves, Amazon's charging you storage fees for it. So we're thinking through the sell-through rate of what's happening at the current time we're sending inventory in, and basically it's like a big math formula of what can be done and sent in the right cadence ahead of the cutoff dates to both protect against storage fees, but protect against out of stock for those holiday events.
I've even seen, they even have storage restrictions too. Like even if a brand sells a lot, sometimes Amazon will restrict what you can send in too, right?
Yeah. We saw that really start to become a thing in COVID. Everybody went from send in anything you want whenever you want to Amazon to them putting massive restrictions on it. And we've always said from the beginning when we started this, I think 6, 7 years ago, we don't really want brands to be Amazon only. We think that there's a inherent risk when the customer isn't yours, right? Amazon is basically renting space, and you pay a referral fee for that space along with other fees. And the fees are what the fees are, and I don't think that we need to dive into the argument for or against them. But what it means is you're always at risk because it's somebody else's customer, or you're always at risk because it's somebody else's fulfillment center. So all of a sudden you can be cut off and not be able to send inventory in, or they could find something on your listing that might get the listing suspended and you have to appeal it. There's a lot of things that can go wrong on the platform. If you don't have the right partner behind you, can be the difference between making and breaking a company. And so we're big proponents in helping brands think through an omni-channel approach. So how are we selling a D2C site, or are we on other marketplaces? What does retail look like for them? And are we trying to get in store with Nordstrom or, Target, or all these different places that brands have multiple sources of customer bases rather than all the eggs in Amazon?
I know that you are Amazon first, but you do help with these other platforms. I'm curious, what are some of the criteria that you would think about to recommend a brand? Go, we should check out Walmart.com at this point.
Sure. So we're Amazon first in that we have to be working with a brand for 6 months on Amazon before we'll take on other marketplaces. The reason for that is today, Amazon is just the largest marketplace by a huge multiple. And so a lot of the work that we can do on Amazon can be replicated and save cost on other marketplaces. There are brands that do really well on Walmart, and there are brands that do really well on Target, but those brands will be 10% of what they do on Amazon typically, from what we see. So a lot of times what informs the secondary marketplace strategy is a brand might be trying to get in store at Walmart. And by being a third-party seller on their marketplace, they can start to work with their in-store teams and their different reps and show that there is demand from the Walmart customer for these products, and it helps them get on shelf. Other times it's, hey, we want to test out a product A over here, product B over here, and we want to see how the market reacts and different customer bases react.
How did you get to this e-commerce role? Because when I look at AdCade and what you do, it's a lot different. How'd you land on what Aisle 3 does?
Well, an investor from AdCade about 8 years ago told me to start looking at Amazon. And he said that at the time, I think Amazon was only doing around $2 or $3 billion in ad sales a year. I think they just did 17 billion in sales on ad sales last quarter. So it was a much different place. And he knew that I and Rob really liked working with founders, and we really like having businesses and places where we can feel the impact immediately. And there aren't many places that are so complicated that founders who are typically very capable themselves can't figure out. Amazon is one of those places. We say all the time that Amazon is about doing everything right all of the time. And the everything is a lot of things. And he pointed out to me, his name is Stu Coleman, actually, and he pointed out to me that this was one of those environments that was underserved and was going to be where everybody needed to be soon. And so we started really digging into it. We found that, software for Amazon wasn't necessarily the thing. Amazon doesn't provide a lot of data, right? You can scrape from Amazon just about as much data as they will provide for you via APIs. And so that means that other than the tools that Amazon gives you, if you really dive into the tool sets that are available for Amazon, like third-party tools that people have built, they're not that impressive. It kind of pushed us into the direction of services. We liked agency. We like the ability to help. It's less about kind of creating a product and then sitting back and watching that product work or not. This is much more about tweaking a product that is people first, and the rest is kind of history.
I'm curious, Rob, the evolution of your customer client. Who's a fit now? Like, are they not on Amazon at all and they just have a big retail presence or a big online presence? Are they up and coming on Amazon? Where are typically brands at when they engage with you?
First and foremost, they typically have product market fit. So we don't work with two specific kind of Amazon sellers. The first are resellers, so people that buy somebody else's, another brand's product at a low price, and they compete on bidding price wars on Amazon to get that product out the door. There's nothing to that other than just bid isolation. The second is the guy who finds, a shipping container of tongue scrapers and throws a label on them and calls it his brand. There's a lot of those kind of people, and I think those guys are really good at figuring out and hacking the Amazon systems and kind of using different tactics that agencies don't use to get to the top. We work with brands that have product market fit. They have an understanding of who their customer is. They've been on Amazon or they're not on Amazon. We're not selective of like we only launch brands or we only take on brands that are already there. I think we're good at both, and both require different kinds of strategy. But they're funded if they're VC back, like in the VC space, they're funded. They're ready to double down on marketing, and they're looking to do something big, right? This is if the channel works. So Lalo's a great example of a brand like this. Lalo, before they started working with us, were a really big name in the baby space. Like they're an amazing brand that does really, really cool things. I have two children myself, and they eat, breathe, sleep Lalo. But they were a big D2C site, right? Lots of people came to D2C, their website, to their lalo.com to buy products, and they still do. But Lalo, like most D2C brands, started to realize like, hey, we're losing out to customers because people are looking for us on Amazon and we're not there. And other Chinese sellers basically have created lookalike products, and they're cannibalizing sales from us that we've already worked through on the top of the funnel. And you can look in the back end of Amazon and see brand search, right? Like AirPods is typically the most searched thing on Amazon, those kind of major brands. Lalo was in the top, I think at the time, 75 or 50,000 searches on Amazon. So people were looking for it. And they came to us and we started looking at what the assortment should be on Amazon and how to launch. And, there's a lot of delicacy, a lot that you need to be delicate about in terms of, what can D2C own and what can be exclusive to their direct consumer site and what can Amazon have. And that was 3 years ago. And today they're in Target, in store in Target. They're on Amazon. They're in Nordstrom. They're all over the place. And most parents have Lalo in their house now. And I think they're a great archetype of the kind of brand that we're really good at working with. Michael, their CMO, is also really smart dude.
Yeah, it's cool. I mean, I could see because people trust Amazon. They already have their credit card in Amazon. They trust Amazon. They know they can get shipping very quickly. So people will search there. They'll probably research a company and then just try and buy it on Amazon, even if they're on someone's website, I imagine. How do you determine what products, they're not going to, basically offer all of the products. And I'm assuming, do you recommend they go FBA, like fulfillment by Amazon with the products?
Your research is really good. I'm actually really impressed by your knowledge of Amazon here. This is great. So yes, I think
Because I mean, obviously
by,
they could launch
yeah,
all of their products to, this FBA, like if someone's fulfilling by merchant, they could just put it up there and fulfill. But I know the rankings are not going to be as high. If Amazon has it in their fulfillment center, that probably helps with the algorithm. So I'm wondering, how do you choose the products, and do you recommend all of those products to FBA?
sure. So there's two main differences between FBA and FBM. The first being who ships it. If it's fulfilled by Amazon, Amazon is the actual shipper of the product, and that's like the Prime boxes we all get in the mail. And FBM, it's being shipped through the the 3PL or the fulfiller of their website, basically, of their D2C site. The second big one is fulfilled by merchant, typically takes 5+ days, like you would buying from anybody's.com to get. And FBA is prime. It's that get it, dependent on the product and where you're located, it could be anywhere between 5 hours and 2 days. And I think when people shop on Amazon, they're shopping for prime eligible products, whatever that product might be. They're looking for high chairs, and they come up against two high chairs, and maybe they're not looking for Lalo, but they're looking for high chairs, and they've never heard of Lalo. And now you're up against, brand A and Lalo. So they're typically going to default to the product that is, beyond all the other things, reviews and all these different parts that you can count in. They're going to go for the one that they can get in 2 days because that's why you're a Prime member. And if you're not FBA, you're going to lose out on an extraordinary amount of sales because somebody else is. And that's part of the fee structure of Amazon. It's how they make money. But when it comes to figuring out assortment, like the high chair is expensive to fulfill. It's a heavy, large product, right? And their sippy cups are cheap to
ship
fulfill.
those things. Yeah, exactly.
You wouldn't want to ship those things. So you take in the storage fees into account as well, right? You have to send it to the fulfillment centers. It sits in the fulfillment centers. That costs money before it gets shipped out as well. And we do a lot of analysis around what those costs are. Another big one on Amazon when you launch a new product is the only way to get verified true reviews via Amazon's program is something called Amazon Vine. And that is a back-end group of people that Amazon invites to review products. So you can enroll a product in Vine, and 30-ish people will take your product. They can click and get your product for free, and they'll leave a verified review. And they are very serious reviewers. They don't mess around. They will give you 1 star. They don't care if it's free. And it's a good program, but you cannot be part of the Vine program unless you are FBA. So there are products that we sell that for brands that are FBM only, and they were FBA just to be part of the Vine program. So it's, there's 1,000 factors that go into all of these different decisions. And that is the everything right all the time. That's part of the everything, right? It's so many details across so many different functions, creative, catalog, performance marketing, fulfillment, ops, strategy. All of those things have their own waterfall of features and problems that come with them that you have to be able to service. And I think the way we've been lucky enough to do it is, we've made a full-time W-2 only agency. So everybody here at Aisle 3 is based in the US. They're full-time. They have health insurance benefits. They're part of the team. We don't outsource it. We don't bring in contractors. And it makes a big difference in our ability to understand the nuances of the partners we work with and those brands and create a better system for them.
Rob, I want to get into product market fit, and specifically, I don't know if anything really emphasizes that more than salt does. So I want to talk about salt. But before we get to it, you mentioned this. When you started Aisle 3, did you bootstrap this? Like, how did you start it? Because obviously growing a company, growing staff, W-2, health insurance, these are not inexpensive things. Obviously, it adds to culture. Did you decide early on we're going to grow by just natural growth, or did you raise money? What did you do with Aisle 3?
So kind of back to the point of building profitable companies. We decided from day one that Aisle 3 needed to be profitable. And that would require thinking through hiring, thinking through all these different data points of how to build a company different than that of a VC-backed company. So by making the decision to be profitable, we decided to not go that VC route and take venture money. That also gave us the ability and optionality to build a business the way we want. If we were venture backed at this point in our company, or PE backed, if you look at agencies that have given away 51 or more % of their company, which is a lot of them, they are outsourced. There is no PE backed company that is going to have a full W-2 team. And there's a lot of sacrifices you have to make that dilutes product when you don't have the ability to be beholden and to care for the team that you're building, right? Like the team of aisle 3 is everything on aisle 3. We are not a business if it's not for the people that work in this company. And the day-to-day work that happens for the brands that we work with isn't because of me. I'm not the smart one at aisle 3. We hire much smarter people than us, and we allow them to do the things that they do best within the systems that we've created for them. We have, we're particular about the way the work gets done, but we allow them to do the work that they can do. And I think, I know it was a good decision in hindsight, and it was a little tougher in the beginning because you weren't flooded with a lot of venture money to go do whatever you wanted to do with. We didn't buy 10 TVs day one like you would.
So as you
got funded.
I'm curious, what did the initial team look like? Or you just grew organically as you brought customers on, you would hire accordingly?
So the original team was myself, Rob Prentice, who's now our CMO, and Riley Core, who is our Chief Product Officer or Performance Officer, CPO. Riley, it's basically a family business. Rob and I have known each other for 25 years. Riley, if you can follow this thread, is Rob's wife's best friend's little brother. So Rob was at a dinner. Rob and I had been talking about, and this is complicated because there's 2 Robs and now Riley, a lot of R's. But Rob was at a dinner talking to people about this business that him and I were talking about aisle 3. And at the dinner was Riley. And he was listening to Rob talk about Amazon and like our thoughts on it. And Riley was the Amazon guy at a much, much larger holding company level agency called Essence. And Riley chimed in and had a bunch of opinions. And Rob came back to me that night, calls me up after dinner, and he goes, You're not gonna believe this. I think I found the guy we should start this with. And Riley is arguably top 3 to 5 smartest people on Amazon in the world. He is an amazing knowledge base that is able to scale his knowledge and pass it down to the team and create lots of playbooks and SOPs that allow people to understand the world the way he does. And it started with the 3 of us. And our first hire outside of that was Darianne. And Darianne was a designer. So the one thing the 3 of us couldn't do is design. And today Darianne is, she actually just got promoted to director of creative and catalog. So she's moving out of just design and kind of heading a whole team. And then the next hire was Ricky. I think that page you're going through is in order of how people came on the team. And Ricky was our first performance marketer, and now he's the director of agency operations and performance for our team. And, we've been lucky enough that really the attrition on our team is basically non-existent. And the people we're building with are the people that are helping us grow the agency. As we get bigger, they're moving into new roles, and we're betting on them to be able to come up with new solutions and make the offering even better.
From when you start the agency, at what point do you get the first customer?
It was pretty quick. Our first customer actually sold he sold something called dick pillows. Literally, he called them dicks, like penises, on pillows. And he embroidered them and sold them on Amazon. And he was a friend of a friend. And he was like selling a lot of pillows, believe it or not, like a lot, an exorbitant amount of penis pillows. And then he would also find like the latest meme, and he would slap that meme on a pillow. And that
And was this
first
selling on Amazon? Like
It was selling on Amazon.
They
It was
let
selling
him
on
sell it on
Amazon.
Amazon.
This was, the Amazon was a different place
Oh,
years ago.
your wife was
And
like, "Wait, you had this AdCade
yeah,
software VC
and now
back,
you're
and
selling now you're
now,
selling penis pillows.
yeah, exactly."
Um, somebody on our team's gonna listen to this and be like, I can't believe you told the world that.
You
Our
got to
first
start
big
somewhere.
client, yeah, our first like our first call it household name client was actually Ripple Foods. Ripple sells e-milk, literally like soybean, like pea
Oh
milk.
yeah, I've had it. Yeah,
Yeah, it's an alternative milk. And I say pea milk, and we were just talking penis pillows.
yeah,
So you're
pea
probably like,
protein.
what
Yeah,
what kind of milk is
I
that?
mean, they have it at the grocery stores,
Yeah,
and
they're
yeah,
everywhere. And
yeah.
we launched
I
them
like
on
the
Amazon, worked with
chocolate
them for
version.
years,
Yeah, yeah.
and we scaled them into the millions. And they were the first brand that gave us the credibility of like, okay, these guys know what they're doing. And then from there, more brands came knocking, and the network grew. And today, I think,
How did you get Ripple? Because that's a pretty big company. Here's Ripple, by the way, if you want to see it.
yeah, that's Ripple. We got Ripple through uh, a friend who ran another agency. His name is Kyle Heller, who I haven't said hi to in a long time. But Kyle introduced us to the head of sales for the Northeast at Ripple, and we met them at Expo West. And this was, I guess, 6 years ago. And we basically were like, "Hey, we're a pretty new agency. We're pretty convinced that our product, like our strategy, is going to work, and we'll work our ass off for you. And you're going to be our tentpole client, and we're going to, I think we probably obfuscated a little bit of how green we were, but we told them we were going to, do the best work ever, and they're going to get a deal on it, and we did, and it worked out, right? Like they scaled massively. They are one of the largest alternative milk brands in the country, and gave us the data points we needed to be able to go to other brands. And now I think Aisle 3 is one of the best agencies for the niche that we work in. We're, boutique for a reason. We like a great, in your intro, you talk about how we just won Adweek's fastest growing agencies. We did that by going deep, not wide. So part of our model is we take a percentage of sales on the back end of the brands we work with. Our goal is to basically be 2 to 3% of total sales. So you got to be confident that we can grow brands to a really high clip, right? Like $500,000 a month or more in sales. And that allows this model to work. And we are able to do that by kind of keeping the right kind of focus on brands that can grow. And instead of adding, we're not an agency of hundreds of brands. Like there's a lot of agencies out there. We don't need to call them out
You
directly.
really are your model is really kind of be a true partner to these brands.
Be a true partner. If we've done the job right, they think of us as their team straight up. And instead of just throwing more brands into our thing, like we tell brands all the time, you're not ready to work with us. We're not the right partner. We are confident enough to do that because we know that when we find the right match, that we will work with them for a long time. We're not typically the first agency somebody's hired. We're the agency you talk to after you fired your first agency that said they'd do everything and didn't. And that gives us the ability to scale a system and create longer relationships and make brands bigger versus make the agency bigger through more brands.
Rob, first of all, I have one last question. Thanks for
Sure.
sharing the journey.
Yeah, you
People
bet.
to check out aisle3.com to learn more. I'm just curious, some of your favorite resources. Those resources could be mentors you learn from, distant mentors you learn from, meaning books, podcasts. What are some of your favorite resources out there for you in your business journey?
So one, we have internally in our company, we use an offshoot of EOS, the Entrepreneur Operating System. We use Steve Prada's. It's called Summit. So I think he's a big mentor and resource in how to continue to build a company that is goal oriented, accountable, and kind of has a North Star to follow. I think LinkedIn is actually a really interesting place to find voices. It's kind of like I've never really been into LinkedIn, and in the past several months I've gotten more into it, and I think that there's a lot of interesting things being said there. Um, I like Reboot a lot as well. I don't know if you know Jerry Colonna. I think the way they think about the founders' mindset's really interesting. They're much less against the hustle mentality, but at the same time, like I respect Gary Vee's like view on it. I think he's probably the smartest marketer in the world right now. He is obviously opinionated, but uh, he seems to have a really good finger on the pulse, and I trust where he kind of sees the future of marketing going. And then I like to read books. I don't read nonfiction, or I don't read fiction. I only read nonfiction, and I just have bookshelves full of like.
What are your favorites?
Um, I'm gonna get up because I can look at.
Yeah, go on.
You
As
know,
you're doing
sorry.
that, I think
Like Atomic Habits is awesome.
mm,
Meditations, Marcus Aurelius is really, really good. Tiago Forte, Building a Second Brain. Actually, I'm going to bring this one over because this one's
okay.
really cool for a lot of people. I think founders in general have a tough time. I don't know if you have a hard stop, but I also have a question for you before we leave. But Tiago Forte has this process called a second brain. And really, it's projects, areas, resources, and archives. It's a way to take all of the information we bring in today's world, which is extensive, online, offline, everywhere, and organize it into a way that you can basically catalog your life into what's like a Dewey Decimal System. And I have crazy ADHD. And it's been something that I've always, my whole life, been trying to work out systems that allow me to stay organized. And this has been in basically 40 years, the only system that I've stuck with. And if you can get him on your podcast, he's, I think, a really interesting person. He's also got great opinions on AI and how to use AI, not to like build the next $1 billion thing, but how to use AI to amplify the stuff that you're doing or help you be more productive in your day-to-day life. And I kind of like that. I like that view of AI better. Like, how do we actually use it versus talk about what it's going to be and how it's going to change the world? Um, so yeah, that's my shout out. I'm gonna give Tiago Forte a big shout out today.
well, it's funny you say that, Rob. So I had the founder of Delphi.ai, if people want to check that out. It's where he helps people clone themselves essentially. So you can go in and ask questions. And so I actually did
That's
a
super cool.
interview with Dara, the founder, his clone, his video clone, and then I had him on to talk about the software. But I had the co-founder of HubSpot AI clone. So I just and but to mention that the only reason I heard of him is because Tiago Forte, he's on Delphi. And so I was like looking through his
Cool.
profile so people can actually interact with him on an actual call on Delphi.ai. So shout out to there. But
That's awesome.
well, this
Very
has been
cool.
great,
My
Rob.
last question for
Yeah,
you.
go.
Well,
Yeah.
maybe my only question I got to ask you. So you guys are big into gifting. What's a great gift for people to give clients this holiday season?
You know what? I don't like sending gifts around the holiday season, to be honest with you,
Okay.
because it's so crowded. And
Good
so
answer.
usually we send gifts on off times of the year, right? So I'd rather personally send them in January when people aren't getting anything. And so I actually try not to send anything around the holiday to referral partners or clients. Now, sometimes our
What's your
campaign kind of goes out, and we have kind of, my philosophy is, since I put on autopilot, we're sending smaller, more frequent gifts. And some people totally disagree with this philosophy, Rob, which is I like getting food. So I send food. Now, some people would say do not send food because they eat it and it goes away. But if I'm sending you, 3 or 4 gifts a year, then I just keep sending you things. Now, for really like referral partners, that are great, and we'll send one-off things in addition to the campaign of gifts, right? And so one-off things are obviously a little bit more personal. So I've sent people like found out their favorite sports team and then had the whole like a signed picture of their favorite sports team and I sent it to them.
That's awesome.
Right.
I love that.
And so like and it could be inexpensive. Actually, one of the talks that I gave at this mastermind, high level mastermind, was about strategic gifting. And one of the examples I give, and this was not me, but actually a software company came up to me after the talk and said, Jeremy, I have to tell you this story. And they spent $10. Okay. They found out they got $1 million client from a $10 gift. Okay.
Wow.
And the CEO, they found out the CEO's wife liked goats. So they found a goat, like one of those, keychain racks that you just hang your keys on in the house. Sent her a goat keychain rack that was $10. And the person and the CEO end up calling. They'd been trying to reach out for months. The CEO ended up calling, be like, okay, my wife said I have to call you. You sent her this awesome goat keychain rack.
That's a really great. That's great.
And so it doesn't have to be super expensive either, but like you said, kind of thoughtful. But I like the ongoing campaign to be in place in addition to one-off thoughtful gifts, because those tend to happen once in a while. And I like a system and a process to make sure it's happening. So
I like that.
Yeah.
Harry and David Pear's good food gift.
All those send food, it's always amazing. But I want to give a shout out to aisle3.com and more episodes of the podcast. Rob, thanks so much.
Thanks so much for having me on. It was great to chat with you today.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like $100 grand.